Let's suppose you sit down towards the end of Q4 of whatever year you're reading or listening to this book to work out a budget for the following year. Your first question ought to be, how much in total owner benefits do I want the firm to provide for my family and me? Then you would want to ask your team to help you calculate how much the firm must gross in order for you and your family to enjoy that level of total owner benefits. In other words, start with the end in mind.
You're listening to the Profit First for Lawyers podcast, the official companion show to the book Profit First for Lawyers by R. John Robbins. Now, this podcast is for you if you want to bring home more profit while working less hours in the office, spending more time with your loved ones doing the things you actually want to do, and turning your office into a lean, mean, profit-breathing machine. So if you're tired of working for your law firm instead of your law firm working for you, stay tuned for some really practical insights that will get you the results you've always wanted. It's time to put your BS aside for the next few minutes and put yourself, your family, your firm, and your profit first. Welcome back to another episode of the Profit First for Lawyers podcast. I'm your host, Carly. And in the last episode, we spent our time going through the benefits of having a personalized, specific definition of success and how to get clear about your own personal, professional, and financial goals so that you can have the kind of life you actually want to live. If you missed that one, please make sure to go back and take a listen because today we're taking things a step further. Now that you know what you want, how do you structure your business's financial goals in a smart, strategic way to make sure that you're claiming that better future for yourself and for your loved ones and even for your clients? Today, we're talking about how to reverse engineer your total owner benefits so that they serve you and they serve your firm and that ultimately everything serves your goals. And to do so, we got to sit down with Evelyn Aucoin, who is the financial literacy and strategy expert at How to Manage a Small Law Firm. Now, Evelyn's been working in the accounting and finance disciplines for over 30 years. She has had many roles in very large companies, including some Fortune 100 companies. And in her career with How to Manage, she's led more than 3,000 advising calls with our members. She co-leads more than 15 workshops. She definitely knows her stuff. She's got a proven track record of being able to help law firms grow, and she's going to help us grow today. You're often going to hear Evelyn say that she's the funniest CPA she knows. And honestly, in my personal experience, that's probably true. Now, this interview was really entertaining, and it was very actionable and very inspiring, too. So if you take her advice, you're absolutely going to see your law firm and your life start to be more profitable. Let's dive right in. Evelyn, thank you so much for being on today. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for asking me to join you. This is fun.
Yeah, I saw your interview on the 12 Days of Law Firm Growth. For the audience listening, we did a really cool series Arjan did at the holiday season that talked about kind of 12 of the main things that you need for business growth. We'll link that in the show notes below if you want to take a look. But Evelyn, your episode was so engaging and so fun that I told Arjan, I absolutely have to bring Evelyn onto Profit First for Lawyers. So I'm really glad that you agreed to do this today.
Well, I've been accused of loving the sound of my own voice a little too much, so it didn't take much of a hesitation for me to agree. So happy to be here.
Well, let's go ahead and get started with, you have one of my favorite titles that I have ever really seen, right? That's the financial literacy and strategy expert. Can you kind of talk to the audience, what is that? And also what interested you in this particular field?
I actually started college on the pre-law track because I thought I was going to become a lawyer in the business school at Texas A&M. But interestingly enough, part of your business degree, they're core classes. And I took the core class on accounting. And at the end of my first semester in accounting, we did a special project. I was the only person out of 325 people in the course who actually got the project 100% right. I made a perfect score. And it kind of took this moment of like, if I'm better than 324 of my immediate peers, why am I thinking about law? Maybe I should be doing, I always call it money math. Maybe I should be doing money math for a living. So I had this pivot at the grand old age of 19 with my major in college, and I've never looked back. And so I became a CPA. I worked in industry, and it just took off. I had an amazing career. So, my listening to my intuition at the end of that very first accounting course paid off. I didn't just stick with the decision because it was the decision I made. I paid attention to what I was seeing and what I was feeling. So there's a lesson in there as well.
Yeah, that is a lot of maturity for a 19-year-old, especially. Obviously, you've worked in this field for a really long time. And then I guess it's kind of funny that you ultimately ended up back in kind of the law space working with How to Manage a Small Law Firm and with Arjan.
Oh, my husband thinks it's the funniest thing on earth because by the way, he thought he was going to be a lawyer too when he was in junior high. So we both actually explored law as junior high school students. And then, ultimately, like I said, both pivoted. He pivoted 6 times before he found his major. That's a story for another day. But when I actually applied for the role, he said, this would be the funniest plot twist on earth if you end up working with lawyers, kind of this full circle moment based on what I thought I was going to do when I grew up, because it was what I stuck with for many years.
I really think that is amusing, and also, what I've found with working here, and I don't know, maybe this is too far off the beaten path, but my degree is in musical theater and performance. And then I got into the business sphere, and it was also through coming to How to Manage that I was suddenly like, oh, hey, look, I'm back to performance.
Well, I was thespian of the year in 1986 and 1987, and I always joke what I learned in theater classes. I actually use more of it every day to day than what I learned in college. So
Yes. Oh my gosh, I find that too. I think it really prepared me for the business world, ironically. That's so funny. And probably is one of the reasons that you are the funniest CPA that we know.
absolutely, for sure. I've done over 3,000 advising calls with our members, and let me tell you, not breaking character when you're on a call is definitely a talent.
Well, let's go ahead and get into some of the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about today, right? So today we are focusing on total owner benefits. Can you really quickly just give us an overview of total owner benefits? What does that include? What does it mean? What does it entail?
Absolutely. So, what we consider total owner benefits is what the owner of, in this case, a law firm, is basically setting as their target for the law firm to provide to them in terms of, generally speaking, a W 2 salary. Obviously, we're talking about an S Corp. If you're talking about W 2 salary, the net profit that the law firm generates that ultimately is available as distributions and other cash flow to the owner, as well as strategically what benefit the law firm is going to offer that individual. Whether it's a car that's leased that the law firm pays for, the law firm certainly will probably pay for health insurance benefits, maybe life insurance benefits. And as these law firms grow, it is so critical they work with a tax strategist so that they maximize these fringe benefits that are also legitimately a business deduction. So it's really these 3 elements that we say make up TOB. And most importantly, we don't want them to happen by happenstance or accident. The critical piece of this is that we think law firm owners should define what their targets and their goals are around all 3 of these pieces. Because otherwise, how do you know if you reached your goal if you don't set a target? So that's the 3 components that make up total owner benefit. But again, most importantly, we want people to be thinking about this as they're setting their goals and doing their business plans so that it's just not a happy accident where they end up in terms of their TOB. The only thing that should be a happy accident is a baby. Or a puppy,
Or a puppy. Oh, that's amazing. Well, the episode that we did right before this one was all about figuring out what you want so that you can set a goal.
Absolutely.
I wonder if you can walk us through some of how do you reverse engineer your goals and your TOBs? Let me make sure that I'm saying this correctly, right? If I say this incorrectly, because I am not a I am not a CPA. I am not a lawyer, but to kind of reverse engineer those goals so that their total owner benefit target can serve their business plan, right? How do they figure out that path? Can you help us do the math?
Well, I mean, it really starts with what you really want that ultimate TOB to look like. Do you even know what you want? Right? Do you know what kind of life you want to live? Do you know what it looks like? Now, that may not be the destination you can get to in 1 year with your law firm. But if you know that ultimate vision of where you want it to be, what you want to have in total owner benefit and fringe benefits and distributions, and then the second most important thing you've got to understand is where you are today. Because if you don't know exactly where you are today, you can't figure out the milestones between where you are today and where it is you want to be. So it's critical that you sit down and you really define what that looks like. And look, this is different for other people. Um, Maybe one of the key things you want your law firm to do is have enough resources inside the law firm where you're not working more than 35 or 40 hours a week. Is that part of TOB? Not by the three-part definition I just gave you. But, profit's a little thinner, but because profit's a little thinner, because we have a kick-ass executive assistant who keeps everything running on time so that I never miss one of my kids' soccer games. That's a part of TOB that's intangible, but it's just as much TOB as the check you take home at the end of the year. So it's a 360 look at what this law firm needs to provide to you. And TOB is so much bigger than the numbers, so much bigger than the numbers. One of my favorite parts of the book, Profit First for Lawyers, he talks about how, happiness isn't accounted for in generally accepted accounting principles, right? Neither is peace of mind, propensity for burnout, or the quality of your life. That is literally my favorite sentence in the entire book because I think it sums up our philosophy of how to manage perfectly. And that's why, as a former business owner, obviously technically an accountant by profession, this is the heart of what we do. Is this 360 definition of what profit really is. And I think it's critical that we look beyond the numbers when we're talking TOB.
My favorite part, what kind of drew me to how to manage, was the tagline, right? Happy lawyers make more money. And the reason that I really liked that was because, my parents were business owners, and I obviously have a theater degree, which a lot of my peers weren't allowed, that I went to college with. They were not allowed to specialize in theater because their parents told them, no, you gotta do something that makes you money. And my parents' motto always was, if you do what makes you happy, you will do it, first of all, better than you would do something else, right? You will have more passion for it, and you will make more money while doing it, so long as you do it smartly, right? But when I told my mom at one point, I sat down at a table, I still remember this. I sat down at the kitchen table and I told her with tears in my eyes, I was like, I heard that less than 1% of actors make it to the big time. And I think I'm going to change my plan for myself because it's just not very realistic. And she got so mad at me. She got so mad at me and she told me, Carly, you better not, right? You cannot change your goals just for the sake of, oh, well, it's hard to succeed. And I did have a very successful performance career, but it's also blessed my life in a lot of other ways too. Anyway, but I love that motto because I think a lot of times people think you follow the money, what's going to make me the most money, but oftentimes when you think of what's going to make me the most happy, your success is a lot more it's a lot more assured, right? You are more likely to put more of your heart and your soul and your hours and be happy in general, right? If you're following something that makes you happy. Anyway, I love that.
For sure. For sure. I mean, there's a lot of wisdom to that. And I think that, when you do get in tune, right, with what's important to you, and that changes. What was very important to me at 25 was completely different at 35, very different at 45, looking damn different at 54. And that's the reality. And embrace the journey because what's important to you and what's going to make you happy, it changes over time.
Yeah. Oh, that is such a great point, Evelyn. So we've engineered our total owner benefits. We know how much we want to be making and what kind of benefits we want the business to be providing for us. So how do we figure out how to attain that, right? We're on the first step of the journey. We know our numbers. We know where we want to go. How do we create that roadmap?
Well, knowing exactly where you are today, your numbers don't lie. Numbers are black and white. The reality of what your numbers are today is the starting point. And if you have this target that you ultimately want to get to, then you need to now set what's going to be your next milestone for the next 12 months. So if my ultimate TOB I want is $400,000 a year, and I'm currently at 150, maybe 200 or 225,000 is a great TOB target for 2024. And if you sit down and you look at law firms, whether you are billing on an hourly basis, a flat fee basis, or a contingency basis, ultimately, matters are your widgets. And you should know the average value of a widget that you produce, solving really personal problems that need a legal solution. There are no legal problems. There are personal problems that need a legal solution. And if you know the average value of your widget, your cases, and then you know what that operating profit percentage is for your business, you can back into what your revenue number needs to be. And your revenue number, really all it is a reflection of how many personal problems that needed a legal solution you delivered. And again, even I was in a business that kept a lawyer very, very busy for about a decade. And it may have looked like a business problem, but I guarantee you there were people behind those business problems. All legal solutions are really addressing personal problems, even if they're in the guise of a business, because a business is ultimately serving its stakeholders. So by backing into how many solutions you need to provide in order to end up with your net is the next step.
Ooh, I love that thought of how many solutions do I need to provide?
Exactly.
I'm going to put that on a mug somewhere, right? In order to get what I want, right? Like, I will not make any money as a lawyer without helping people solve their problems.
Completely. When I was growing up, there was a joke that said in the game of life, lawyers are the only ones who actually read the rules on the back of the box. And that's why you've got to occasionally go to a lawyer and understand what the rules are.
I think that's your mic drop moment. So now we know here's how many problems that I need to solve in order to reach my goal. What is the next step from there?
The next step from there is looking again at where you are today. What's going on with how many opportunities or leads are coming into your law firm? Understanding where those opportunities are coming from. Are they coming from other lawyers as a professional referral? Are they coming from your former clients referring people into your business? Are you also really leveraging front end marketing, things like local service ads, your website, the search engine optimization, and a free download or chat or other communication through your website, local service ads, pay-per-click, speaking engagements. There's a plethora of ways, opportunities to solve legal problems can come into your law firm. So understanding right now what is the flow of those opportunities into your law firm, how effective you are at communicating the way you can solve their problems, so your conversion rate, right, of your A and B avatar clients. Nobody wants to get to their TOB goal by serving a bunch of clients who are F clients. And being able to be empowered and having enough confidence in driving the business into your law firm where you do not feel this desperation to take on clients you do not want to be working with is also honestly part of your TOB, because it can be part of your happiness. Think about how bad clients burn out your staff. Think about how exhausting bad clients are for you. Think about the bad clients, how you have to beg them then to replenish their retainers or pay you for the legal services. I was recently teaching a workshop for how to manage in Denver, and I had a person in the workshop who happened to solve personal problems in the area of family law. And she said, when somebody comes into my law firm and in the first 10 minutes that they start trying to negotiate with me about what it is going to cost, she goes, I know I don't want them in my law firm because my pattern, my experience has been anybody who brings that up in the next 10 minutes is going to fight me every dollar along the way, the entire time I'm working on their divorce or their custody issue or whatever it is. She goes, it's my immediate red flag, right? That this is not going to be a client I want to work with. And I'm so proud of her for feeling empowered that she just doesn't have to lick the boots of everybody who comes in off the street. She can pick who she wants to serve. And that's power. That's empowerment. And ultimately her law firm is going to provide more total owner benefit to her in terms of less stress by not dealing with clients she doesn't want to deal with.
I think that's something that is a good rule of thumb for most businesses. You know what I mean? I think that the customer is always right. That slogan. Sometimes, right, as a business owner, you have to pick your battles. You can't let the customer always be right. You can let them still be a customer, but maybe they can be a customer with somebody else who they would be the ideal client for.
Right. And maybe your F client is another law firm's A client. And that's fine. Not all things for all people. So deciding, being by design, the clients you want to serve and knowing who that is and sticking with it is also a form of empowerment or happiness with your law firm. Because again, you're creating something that's repeatable if you know exactly the type of clients you want to be working with in your law firm. And so it's a huge point of empowerment for our members. It's coming to that point. We call it creating your avatars. And you may have more than one, you may have 5 or 6, but that's okay. But actually having the discipline to define who that is, where they work, what kind of job they work in, what part of the community they're in. Maybe they're even a particular ethnic community. I was meeting with somebody yesterday who is in Minnesota, and he's realized there's a greatly underserved Spanish-speaking population in Minnesota. And he, as a Spanish speaker, is hiring bilingual people in his law firm. And this is part of their purpose, is to be there for the Spanish-speaking population in their state. There's nothing wrong with that. It's beautiful that they've identified that there's a gap in the legal services market where he is, and he's seeking to fill the gap. That's huge.
That's such a great example too of, not all F clients are F clients because they're hard to work with. Some of them just aren't right for what you specialize in, what you offer. And it's okay to send them on their way so that they can be somebody else's A client. I think that's a really, really good point.
Let them be a gift to someone else.
Let them be a gift to someone else. I'm going to put that on a mug. Evelyn, in your experience, what are some of the concerns or the roadblocks that you see law firm owners who have never really thought about their total owner benefits this way? What are some of the roadblocks that they come in with, and how do you help them kind of reframe or to get convicted about this particular subject?
Well, I think it's important for people to really define what it is they want. I worked with one law firm owner who literally told me, I literally don't know what I would do with the extra money if I made more than $100,000 a year. And this person happened to have a child. And I said, well, how much do you want to have saved for their college education by the time they're 18? I haven't really thought of that. I said, well, have you researched college? Do you know how much you need to have saved? What about your retirement? Well, I'm only 30. I'm like, well, it's never too early to start planning for your retirement. What retirement vehicles do you need? The whole concept of understanding the power of compounding, right? And understanding that, you got to plant the seeds today for the tree you want to sit under in 20 years. So a lot of them just simply haven't sat back. And again, it's not always about stuff, right? One law firm owner that I recently was speaking with, he runs a law firm, and this law firm helps veterans get their benefits that they absolutely deserve out of our system. And he has been very successful. He has everything he needs personally. He identified there was a population of veterans he actually couldn't help on a contingency basis. So he's literally started a nonprofit with his own money to help the veterans that his law firm couldn't specifically help. How beautiful is that? So sometimes our goals are bigger than ourselves. And so part of this is understanding what makes them tick, what's important to them. And yes, I mean, you can leave a legacy or you can create a legacy while you're still here. And I don't purport to tell anybody what their goals should be. But at the same time, I want them to just ask themselves what they could be. What could your goals be? What could you do? What could the future look like? Who could you help over and beyond your law firm? And I think some of them have never really sat down and thought about the what if, especially if they came from modest upbringing. Sometimes, what they want, it almost seems impossible to dream that big, right? I mean, I went to college on Pell Grants. You got to be pretty damn poor to go to college on Pell Grants. And I was a millionaire before my 36th birthday. So I know your dreams are possible. I know things that seem statistically improbable absolutely happen, that you manifest with your feet. You don't sit by the water and pray for fish. Throw your line in the damn water.
Ooh, you don't manifest with your feet?
You do manifest with your feet. You
do manifest with your feet.
You manifest with your feet. Arjun and I have had this conversation, the secret, right? A lot of people talk about the secret and the mindset and the manifestation. And I said, well, the secret is great, but you manifest through action. You get things done through taking action. You get things done through having goals. And again, this is something that I'm a trained yoga and Pilates teacher, so I've studied a lot of yoga philosophy. And the analogy they gave us is you don't sit by the river and pray for fish. You sit by the river, you pray, and then you throw your line in. You got to take action. And that's what a lot of people miss when it comes to these concepts. Is you manifest through taking action. You manifest through having a plan. You manifest by setting goals. You manifest by saying, this is the ultimate TOB that I want. And then you ground yourself in the reality of where you are today. And that's the only way to create a roadmap. How can you ever get in your car and set a GPS point? It means nothing if the car doesn't know where the hell you are now. It works like that way in life as well. Goals are great, but if you don't know where you are now, you only have half the equation.
That is really impactful. And to be honest, I've never really thought about it like that, though of course that's very true, right? If you don't know where you are, somebody could give you the world's most detailed map. You still can't get to where you want to go because you don't know where you are.
It applies to your finances. It applies to your health. It applies to your relationships. It applies to every single area of your life. So if you can embrace this concept that goals without having a foundation of where the hell you are today are meaningless, it's like bookends. You got to have both. One doesn't cut it.
Yeah. One point does not make a line without another point.
Exactly.
Oh,
and
Evelyn,
that's what I do
so
all day.
Beautiful.
And that is what I do all day long with our law firm owners, and help guide our advisors to understand that goals are great, and grounding ourselves in where we are so we can actually do that gap analysis on what it's going to take to get there is what we do day in and day out.
That is beautiful. Oh, I'm so glad that you came on and shared this with us today. I think that this is really jam-packed with some things that, I mean, without being too grandiose, honestly, I think this is life-changing, right? Because it reframes so many things, even for me, in such a different way that I am taking stock of. Okay, I spent a lot of time last year planning my goals and what I want to do, but I didn't spend as much time getting really in the nitty-gritty, grounding myself in the where am I now so that I can be really, really clear on that. That's such a beautiful point. I really, really like that. Thank you for bringing this to us today. This was really great.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, no. I mean, if you don't know where you are, you don't know what the first step is. May I give you an analogy I use a lot with our members?
Please, yeah.
Let's say you're in a home and you have a very high ceiling in your great room, and it has those big bulbs, right? Those spotlight bulbs that go up in the ceiling. And you can write down on your to-do list when it burns out, I need to fix the bulb in the living room. And it sits on your to-do list and it sits on your to-do list. You know why? Because every time you look at it, you think, oh, but I don't know what type of bulb it is. I don't know if I have the bulb. I don't know if I have the thingy that goes on the end of the extension arm so I can grab the bulb and unscrew it and put. So fixing the bulb is actually a target. It's not the very next step. The very next step is figuring out what kind of bulb it is. If you have the bulb, if you have the right tool to change the bulb. So too often we think what we need to do next is actually more of a milestone than the very incremental itty bitty next thing we need to do. And understanding this concept is starting to reframe how we prioritize things this way is life changing.
Yeah. Oh, Evelyn, that's such a good analogy, and one I absolutely am guilty of.
Because a lot of times when we're not making progress, it's because we really haven't actually identified the next teeny tiny next step we need to take. And so in any area of your life where there isn't progress, I would challenge you to take a step back and say, do you really have the next itty bitty teeny weeny next step? Because sometimes what's holding us up is we really haven't gotten granular enough about what's next.
Yeah. Oh, that is so good. Wow, I have learned so much today. I am so glad that I got to have this conversation with you. I myself have found it very mind expanding. There are definitely some things that I do. There are some things in my house right now at this exact moment that are like that big bulb where I have definitely procrastinated putting them together. But you're right. That's not the next step.
Any area of your life that's not making progress, take this analogy to it and see if you just fail to identify truly the next very tiny next step. It can be game changing for you reaching your goals in every area of your life, wherever you set your goals.
Oh, that is so good. Thank you, Evelyn. Can I switch tacks a little bit here? There's a question I like to ask all of the guests that come on this show because, we talk to a lot of people who are very strategic, who have very clearly defined goals. So I always love to hear the answer to this one. And the question is, what is a piece of advice that you've taken action on sometime within the last year that has ended up being really valuable for your own life, something that's been very profitable for you?
Absolutely. Well, I love our definition of profit. Our definition of profit is exchanging something you value less for something that you value more. And matter of fact, in April of 2023, so almost a year ago, I had made the decision to stop working full time. And so I stopped working full time. I took a 10-week sabbatical, which I've never taken in my professional career. I went to Europe for almost 3 weeks, sailed around the Greek Isles on a large yacht. Highly recommend it. Went to Turkey, went to Italy, cleared my head. And then I'm very fortunate that I was able to work with how to manage and come back on a part-time basis. And so I made this life-changing decision to start working only part-time so that I can spend more time with some of the other things that are very important to me. Let's face it, there's a lot, statistically, there's a lot more years in my rearview mirror than there are out of the windshield. And I don't want to waste any of the time I have left by not accomplishing some of the things I want to accomplish. And I'm very fortunate that I work with someone like Arjan and some of the other leadership at How to Manage because they do have this mindset, like they get it. And they were completely open to me creating a different type of role here where I could balance it with some of the other things I wanted to do in my life. That was for a person who has focused on their career and making money and hitting financial goals, pretty much like a bull in a china shop for the last 35 years. I'm deciding to take a step back and exchanging something I value less, money, for something I value more, time, was pivotal for me.
I had realized that you had started working part-time, But that is such a fun goal for any life, right? To kind of take a step back on what do you value the most? How can I make the most profit? And then make a move towards it. Evelyn, that's such a huge move that you made. I mean, honestly, congratulations on setting a goal and then achieving it. That's kind of, I mean, objectively, that's kind of a terrifying goal, but something that it sounds like has added a lot of value to your life.
I'm so happy that I did this. I was debriefing with our John just a couple of weeks ago about it, and he asked me how things are going. And I said, I think this is one of the best decisions I've made in my adult life. Reflecting on it now, I came back last July after my sabbatical. So I'm 9 to 10 months now into this part-time role, and it's been tremendous for me. I'm extremely productive when I'm working, and I've got those margins. I've got that time that I need, that I want to spend with my husband and do other things that are important to me. And so striking again this different balance, it's not about money. It's about life and priorities. And I'm incredibly grateful that I was brave enough to take the step, and B, extremely grateful that I work in an organization that also created the space for me to make this change. And so, I think this is one of those things that I manifested through my feet. And so I'm happy, very happy that it worked out. But for sure, it was about my definition of profit, which wasn't about money. It was about time.
Yeah. Evelyn, this has been such a really valuable time frame for me. I got a lot of value out of this. I think that our listeners really will too. Is there any last words, last things that you want to say before we sign off today? Any last bits of advice that you want to give?
Take the time to really set your goals. Take some time to really think about it. Brainstorm on it. Focus on it. Journal on it, right? Write down 100 things and come up with the 3 that are really important to you. And realize that it may change. Realize that's where you are today. But if you don't take the time to sit here and really think about what you want or where you want to be 12 months, 36 months, 5 years from now, you won't know when you get there. You can celebrate your accomplishments so much more if it was a GPS point rather than just charging through life. I worked with a lot of people professionally who just never had goals. They were just always charging through for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And you know what? That's exhausting if you never know when you get there, right? So don't just charge through life focusing on the next thing right in front of you. Set some goals, have some targets. And for God's sakes, when you reach those goals and when you take those targets, take a minute to be grateful and reflect and appreciate what it took to get there. Really absorb that moment, because this air of gratitude, a lot of people feel like being grateful for what they had is disassociated with wanting more. Now, what if I challenge you to say it's the exact opposite? Wanting more is fueled by also being extremely grateful for what you have. They're not dichotomous. They're actually congruent. And I would challenge people to think about it that way.
Oh, all right, folks, set some time aside. Make sure that you're really, really focusing on what it is that you want. And then make sure that you put that together on paper, reverse engineer it, get your total owner benefits to serve your business plan, your business goals, and then get out there and do it. Evelyn, thank you so much for being on today. I keep mentioning, but this has been so valuable for me. I really appreciate your time, especially since I know how much you value your time. Thank you for spending some of it with us today.
Thank you, Carly, for inviting me. I enjoyed being here.
Hey guys! So quick note here, we really wanted to make sure that we weren't just giving you profitable concepts, but that we were also providing some resources to help you take action and see the results in your own lives. Now, some of these resources are going to be downloadable, some of them are going to be watchable, and others will be live, but all of them will be offered to you completely for free, no strings attached. Now, we do host a Profit First for Lawyers workshop several times per year all over the US, and Arjan has finally agreed to let me offer it to our listeners again for free. So if you're ready to get serious about making your law firm more profitable, click the link in our show notes below and reserve your seat now. Now, fair warning, we do cap attendance at these events to make sure that attendees get some real laser focus on the things that are important to them. And we do always run out of seats, so make sure that you snag your seat. If you want even more insights and even more Arjan, don't miss it. I love talking to Evelyn. Isn't she so great? Look, I found that so helpful and really, really insightful and inspiring. And I hope it was really helpful for you too. Okay, so we've just heard Evelyn walk us through the steps to pair our goals with our reality and really how to ground ourselves in reality and why that's so important when we are goal planning. So next time, we're taking this a step even further. And trust me, folks, this is not one that you're going to want to miss. We'll see you then. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Profit First for Lawyers. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, tell a friend. And visit profitfirstforlawyers.com/action to download the resources that are going to help you put these concepts to work for your law firm. Your future self will thank you for it, and we will see you next time.